Under the breath of time.
Under the breath of time, she came to a small seaside town, to escape the noise of the big world and find herself among the waves. Elizabeth carried quiet inside her, after disappointments, after promises spoken too loudly. Stephen had always lived there, a carpenter who knew how to build not only houses but trust. They met simply. She got lost among the narrow streets, and he helped her find her way, and somehow never left her side again. Their conversation smelled of coffee, sea, and wood. She read him poems, he carved her tiny wooden figures, seagulls, boats, hearts. It seemed that with every touch of wood, something real was being born. One evening, when the sky burned with peach light, Stephen said, "You are my home, even if everything else disappears." They were married in an old church by the coast, with the wind as their witness. The days that followed were quiet, work, chores, small misunderstandings. But in each day there was a moment when he'd lay his hand on her shoulder, and the whole world would become simple again. Their first child was a daughter, Lillian, with eyes the color of morning sky and laughter that healed silence. A few years later came Thomas, who loved reaching for the sunlight through the window, just as his father once reached for his mother's smile. Time passed. Silver touched their temples, yet every morning they still drank tea together on the porch, their shadows holding hands on the wooden floor. And perhaps that was what true love really was. Not in storms or passions, but in the quiet building of a shared life, like a home, where every morning smells of warmth, and every night carries the breath of two hearts still beating in unison. The years flowed like a river, calm and unstoppable. The house of Stephen and Elizabeth stood on a hill above the sea, its windows catching the first light of every morning. Lillian grew up like sunlight itself. She left for the city to become a teacher, believing that kindness should be sown like seeds. On her desk always stood a small carved seagull, made by her father. And whenever the children asked about it, she would smile and say, "It reminds me that even small wings can carry a great heart." Thomas stayed by the sea. He continued his father's craft, a carpenter, a dreamer, a maker. His hands knew how to give life to wood, and his eyes could find beauty in imperfection. When he built his first boat, he asked his mother to name it. Elizabeth smiled softly through the years and said, "Call it faith, because that's what keeps us afloat." Stephen aged slowly, like an oak, his roots deep in the earth. When his strength began to fade, he would sit on the porch beside Elizabeth, and they would simply be silent together. Yet in that silence lived every memory, the laughter of children, the whisper of waves, the scent of morning coffee. When one autumn evening Stephen passed away, the sea was quieter than ever before. Elizabeth told her children, "He hasn't gone, he's just returned to where he always belonged, to the light." Years went by. The house remained standing, now filled with the voices of grandchildren. And whenever Lillian or Thomas watched the sunset, they knew, love doesn't end with death. It transforms into memory, into tenderness, into the touch of hands, into the scent of wood that still carries the warmth of their childhood. And beneath that same sky where Stephen and Elizabeth once met, a new generation was learning again to love simply, to live honestly, and to hold one another close, for that is how eternity begins. Many years had passed. The house on the hill by the sea still stood, white and blue, with windows that mirrored the sky. Now the grandchildren lived there. Mia and Elliot, the children of Thomas. They grew up among the scent of pine, the sound of waves, and old photographs in frames where young Stephen and Elizabeth were smiling. Mia often sat by the fireplace, listening as her father said, Your grandfather wasn't a hero from a book. He just loved so deeply that the world around him became gentler. One day, Mia found an old journal. Its cover was worn, and inside was the neat handwriting of Elizabeth. There were entries about everything. Their first meeting in the rain, the wedding beneath the willow, the births of Lillian and Thomas, and one short line on the last page. If our children ever find this home, they will find us too. That night, Mia walked down to the sea. The wind was soft, and the waves whispered something familiar. She looked up at the stars and said, "I feel you. And I promise, we'll carry it on." Years later, she fell in love too. With a man who could laugh with his eyes. Together they restored the old shipyard where her grandfather once worked. When their daughter was born, Mia named her Elizabeth. And when the little girl took her first steps, the sunlight streamed through the open door, touching the old wood that still carried the warmth of Stephen's hands. The house on the hill stood as a memory, but inside it lived not the past, but life, love, and new beginnings. And when the stars rose above the sea each night, someone would whisper softly, "We are still together, under the breath of time."